responding to that deadline, essentially it proves that they don't want to actually do a real health, health research, because it's not a long enough period of time to do legitimate research. So that's something that you should explain to people as well. If they don't do it, yeah.
November 29th last year, the DEC put out their regulations package. They have a whole year to get that regulations package passed. The Cuomo administration just said we're going to do a health study of fracking, and they just announced it, and we don't know anything about it. It's not transparent. In other words, if they do an actual legitimate health study, they will miss their November 29th deadline. There's no real way to do a health study in 3 or 4 weeks. Now, if they say, oh, here's our health study on November 24th, and then they pass the regulations package, you know that this was some kind of a political game. It was some sort of moving the things around till after the election or whatever. And so what we're talking about here is no legitimate health study could be done by November 29th on this entire issue in the Marcellus Shale. There's no way. It's not possible. There's too many issues. So what we have hopefully bought ourselves is another year worth of deliberations, more public hearings, and please turn out at those public hearings. But I think absolutely what Sean wrote in that op-ed, and all of our position is it's absolutely ridiculous to imagine doing a health study in that short of a period of time. But that's another thing. When you call Cuomo, you're obviously all well versed. Can we just for 10 seconds hear from Craig Stevens, who traveled from the frac zone in Pennsylvania?
Thank you. Let me tell you, Josh has changed the world with that movie, and everyone's denying it, but I'll tell you what, everything in there is true. The 33 families that they list can no longer speak. Everyone's been silenced and demic by gag orders. Sean, you and Yuka and your mom started Artists Against Fracking on July 13th. That was my birthday. Thank you very much for my best birthday present I've had ever. That has changed. You don't understand what happened. Before we had Josh and Mark and these wonderful people, Water Defense, Frack Action, all these great groups, they were being, oh, who are these people? They can't look at Artists Against Fracking and say, who are these people? They're the people they're going to rely on, especially Governor Cuomo, to re-elect him in 2014. And if he lets this happen, they better just say no. I want to highlight one thing. The list of the harmed. Just go list of the harmed. It's very easy to find. Hundreds of names on this list from all over the country that have been damaged by this industry. Don't tell them this is not true. Matter of fact, go and drink their water. I started a thing called Come and Drink It, and Governor Corbett will not do it. I met Sean at the Constitution Pipeline meeting, where I came up and spoke. Sadly, I have a PhD in pipeline from it getting installed on my property. They dumped 100,000 gallons of that junk on my property. They call it liquid of unknown origin. And I call it, I'd like to send it back to them, but just knowing that we have friends. Martin Luther King said very famously, and I'm going to get it out here so I don't mess it up here. In the end, we'll remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Where I live, in my own community, the silence is deafening. And it is very pleasing and makes me feel great to have friends here in New York. By the way, my mother is from Oswego, New York. I'm a 5th-generation New Yorker and a 6th-generation landowner in Pennsylvania. If you let this industry cross the line, the state line, and start this process, you are insane. It is generational suicide. Fight this with everything you have. If we have to put a human chain across that line, we're going to have to cut it out of Pennsylvania like a cancer, but we're not letting it happen to my mother's home state. Thank you.